So now for putting in the mountains and doing things like that, one thing that I'm going to want to do is, as always, start out with a new layer. So when I'm done working on a layer, it's a good idea to lock that layer and keep all of your layers locked except the current layer you're trying to add artwork to. If you're very intentional about that, it's going to make your life much, much easier. So now this is going to be my mountain layer. So I'll just name it so it's been done. And now what I'm going to do is zoom out a little bit. And the reason I'm zooming out is because I'm going to make my artwork much bigger than my stage. And you'll see why shortly. So to zoom out, I can hold down the Command key and hit Command minus and plus, zoom in and out. Or I could use the zoom tool, but I'm too lazy to go over and click on a tool. I would rather just do that. So Command plus or Command minus to zoom in and out, or at the top of the screen you'll see it says 50%, and I can click on that and choose, I could go back to 100, I could go up to 400, I can go down to 25. So I have lots of options available to me. But 50% is going to work nicely for what I need. So if I go and grab my paintbrush tool, and then I'm going to go choose my color for my mountains. Actually, we should go with purple, so we have our Purple Mountains Majesty. So I'm going to draw in some mountains here. And you will notice that I'm doing it in an extremely careful manner, drawing a very exacting landscape shape. And I think that's probably going to be enough. Now I'm going to just extend the ends down here a little bit and then continue this across. And the reason I've created a closed shape is I can then grab my paint bucket tool, and with the paint bucket tool I can now fill this with a color with a simple click. And now I have my mountains drawn. Now with the mountains drawn here, if I select them, I can convert them to a movie clip, and once they're a movie clip, it will be much easier for me to animate them. So I have drawn my mountains, and if I want to make these, I can add in shading and color and as much detail as I want, but for the purposes of this example, I'm just going to keep it simple. So what I want to do is go under Modify and choose Convert to Symbol. We can see currently it's grayed out because my artwork is not selected. So to select my artwork, I can click on it. So I can click on the fill, hold down Shift, click on the stroke, and that selects all of it. I could have, because the artwork on the other layers is locked, I could also, just using the Select tool, drag and marquee a selection to select it. And once I've done that, Modify Convert to Symbol, which is F8, becomes available. I click under that, and I can now name this Mountains. And we're defaulting to using this as a movie clip symbol, which is a good symbol to get in the habit of using for most Flash use. So after I've done that, I now have my mountains, and I can move them around as I see fit and have lots of fun with them. So now mountains have been created. I'm going to add another layer here. This is going to be my house. I'm going to draw a house on this layer. So I'll grab the brush tool, grab a new color, and I really just don't like that color, so we'll choose something. And lock my mountains layer so I don't accidentally draw on it. Now if you notice, my brush is making a mark on screen of a certain size. So I'm just going to put a few marks down. Now if I zoom in to 100%, if I make a mark with my brush, you'll notice the mark is at the same size on screen as it was at 50%. in some drawing programs, you choose your brush size, and that brush size is attached to the size of the document. In Flash, the size of your brush is paired up with whatever zoom magnification that you are using. So if I zoom way out and draw, you'll see it's still making the same identical size mark on screen, but now it covers a greater proportion of my stage. If I want to do very detailed drawing, I need to zoom in, and it still is making a mark the same size on screen. So no matter what size I'm at, I will always draw the same size mark on my screen. And it's the zoom magnification that I use that determines how big that mark is in my document. It's a interesting concept to get used to, and once you do, it's actually really efficient. And it's a very nice way to work. So I'm now going to select that, delete, and I can just draw my house at 100% here, because that will. And my house needs a window. It's going to need a door. Now I can grab the paint bucket tool and find some colors to fill it. And after that's completed, I switch over to the select tool, highlight my house, F8, convert to symbol, name it house. So now we have the main sky and ground, we have the mountains, we have the house, we have our guides. I'm going to add a new layer here. This is going to be for my clouds, so I'm going to work in my clouds next. And I've named my layer. I'm going to lock my previous layer. And now with the cloud set up, I can grab my brush, grab a color, and I'm going to make my highly realistic looking cloud. Now, what you may find over the course of doing this is we may want to have multiple clouds that I want to animate to make them look, so I can just make it look a little bit nicer. And now I can fill my clouds with a color. If I choose a color, grab the bucket tool. Now when I convert these to symbols, previously, if you remember, each cloud or each thing, I just selected all of it, but I want each cloud to be its own symbol. So now that I have done that, I can use any of the selection tools to select a cloud, hit F8, cloud 1, and now I'm going to make cloud 2, 3, and 4 using the same process. And we're going to allow Flash to do a pretty neat thing for us once we get all of our clouds converted to symbols. But when you're trying to convert something to a symbol, don't start typing in the object name until you've hit F8 and it comes up with the convert symbol dialog. Cloud 3. And my final item, cloud 4. So now I have on my clouds layer, I currently have 4 clouds. Now I know that I want to animate each one of these independent of the others because I want to control their speeds so that it gives a sense of space, that clouds further in the distance might be moving a little bit slower. So to do that, to accomplish that, what I can do is select all of these clouds. So I can either hold down Shift and click on each one. And if I right click on my layer and scroll down, maybe it's right click on my object, Sorry, not on the layer. Right click on the object, one of these selected objects. There's an option of distribute to layers. This is a really cool feature that they put in Flash. So if you have a whole bunch of objects on one layer, but you want to put them all on separate layers so that you can animate each one independently, I selected all of my objects. So I've selected my clouds. If I right click, distribute to layers, then we will notice that it says Cloud 1, Cloud 2, Cloud 3, Cloud 4. My original clouds layer is now worthless, so I can just throw it away, but we see it named each layer with the symbol name of the object. So in my layer palette, I can now see Cloud 1, Cloud 2, Cloud 3, and Cloud 4. Now, if you haven't saved recently, again, always save because Flash will crash on you. Now, one thing that sometimes happens is while you are working, you may find that suddenly your whole world goes gray and you realize that you lost your layers, you lost your frames, and stuff is gone. And what has happened is you have inadvertently double-clicked on a piece of artwork, and notice my cloud, I can't see a huge difference except that everything else went gray and I can't select any objects. I lost my frames and layers. I am in what's called symbol editing mode. I'm editing a symbol in place. So I see the other objects around it. And if I look at the top of the screen, I was in scene 1. I'm now inside the Cloud 3 movie clip symbol. So I'm editing that symbol in place. Now if I double click on the stage, it brings me right back. If I were to click on this cloud, we'll see now I'm editing Cloud 2. If I click on scene 1, it brings me back. So what ends up happening is every object gets its own internal timeline, and we have our main timeline here where I've put all of these object layers. So if you realize your world suddenly goes gray, you're like, crap, where'd all my stuff go? Oh no, Flash deleted all my layers, and you start freaking out and have a heart attack. Take your hand off your mouse. Take a deep breath. And then look in the top left corner, and you will probably realize you accidentally got into symbol editing mode. It's as easy as you try to move an object and you double click versus click and drag, and now I'm in symbol editing mode. So to get out, I can double click off of my artwork or click on scene 1 up here, and now I'm back to